Yes, a very good morning to you, Grenada, and the rest of the world. It's another Friday morning as we prepare to wrap up yet another wonderful week here on the Spice Hour. Thank you very much for joining us for today's edition of Good Day Grenada. I'm George Grant. Now, interesting program for you this morning. We're gonna, excuse me, a little froggy in the throat there to get things started. This morning, I want to begin with a couple of excerpts. Actually, one excerpt from a program which we did here yesterday afternoon. You know that every Thursday afternoon we do this little hour-long feature live on Facebook with some of Grenada's youth. And I think yesterday was their 8th edition. And yesterday we had a gentleman who's been a regular. I think he's been on every one of the programs we did, and he brought along a friend by the name of Jermaine Thomas. And they were talking about a few little issues. And by the way, when they do these programs, you only see them, but I'm usually sitting right here, and they're sitting over there having their little discussion. And I sat here and I marveled at some of the comments they were making. And two in particular sort of jumped out at me, and I thought, well, you know what? I want to share these with my friends tomorrow morning. So I pulled out those two pieces, well, one piece last night, but two questions. And I'm going to share that with you this morning, okay? So when you take a look at the Facebook or GrenadaBroadcast.com website, what you're seeing there is something captioned Opinions from Yesterday's Edition of Woke. Yeah, the program is called Woke, okay? And just in case you've missed any of the editions, they're posted there on the GrenadaBroadcast.com website. You can go on back and check them out. So, after that, we're going to have the National Report. Yeah, they're here this morning. And then, Scunny. What does Scunny have up his sleeve this morning? I don't know, but you're going to find out in just a wee bit, okay? Brian Pitt is going to be joining us as he does every Friday morning. Spoke with him last night, and looking forward to letting Brian ride again this morning. Yeah. I am so blessed to have the sort of lineup that we have here every weekday morning on we still have to replace Valerie on Monday mornings, but on Tuesdays we got Ray. On Wednesdays we've got Sharon. On Thursdays we've got Alan, and on Friday Brian. So great lineup, and from what I'm hearing, you guys really get off on these characters. Now. So let's. Oh wait, hold on a minute. They're pretty alive this morning on social media already. So before I get going, just so that we don't get too far backlogged, Ryan is saying guffaw, George. Guffaw, Gigi. Well, guffaw to you too, Brian. Ryan, good to see you. Margaret says it's raining in New York City this morning. You know, Margs, it's not raining here, but it's kind of cloudy this morning. Kind of cloudy. And only yesterday I was saying to somebody, it looks like the dry season may be coming to a screeching halt. We haven't had any heavy showers or anything, but we've been getting a little bit wet. Yeah, so I guess a little heads up that the 2019 hurricane season ain't that far off, eh? So please start preparing. Peter's saying it's cool in Brooklyn this morning. Well, wait a minute now. Peter, you're in Brooklyn. It's cool. Margaret says it's raining. So who do I believe? Who do I believe this morning? Actually, it could be both. Ryan is saying good morning. Fitzroy is saying good morning. Anthony is saying good morning. John, good morning, George and the world. I have banished the gremlins to GIS today. Good for you, sir. Ryan is saying, what does the logo on your shirt say? It says FGBMFI. That's the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship International. That's I haven't had much time to visit them lately, but for years, every Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, we would get together and have breakfast down at Tropicana. I have not been able to do that for the last little while, but it's a good group. Benedict Cador is saying good morning to you folks, and so is Ashton Fletcher from a rainy Louisville, Kentucky. So it seems like it's raining all over the world, this morning. Good to see you, Ashton. And he says, have a blessed day and a wonderful weekend. Well, we send the same to you, sir. Now, let's get down. I think that's it on social media for the time being. Anybody out there on Rumble Chat? No. Oh, by the way, an apology. You probably noticed that last night, boy, yesterday was a hell of a day. Last night we had a power outage while we were doing that program with the youth yesterday. Woke. I heard a bang. Sitting right here, I heard a bang. And boop, the lights went out. That was about 40 minutes or so into the program. Okay? It's totally dark in here. And if you'd like to see what I mean, you go take a look at Woke. You'll notice that the last 10 minutes of the program, you can hear the guys, but you can't see anybody because all the lights were gone. Anyhow, that outage did not end until about 10:35 last night. As a result, the usual suspects were not able to get together here last night. Man, that broke our hearts. It really did. But we're back up this morning and we're running. So yesterday morning, remember we had that software program? 1, 2, the power outage during Woke. 3, no MeQuI chat last night. It was a hell of a day. Hell of a day. But thank God, we're up and kicking again this morning. Now, Ryan says, you missing Sulphur's South then? Don't get it, Ryan. Hazel Wilson says, good morning. She's in New Jersey. And yeah, so let's get down to business here. Interesting discussion on yesterday's edition of Woke. The two youngsters we had here, Augustin Lewis and Jermaine Thomas, were quite impressive and encouraged other youngsters like themselves who are aspiring to see a better Grenada than we now have, to not be afraid, to not be discouraged, and to pursue their dreams. Now you can understand why that jumped out at me. But first, one of them was asked, Augustine asked Jermaine, to comment on Tobias Clemens' announcement in Parliament this past week that when he returns to the House next time around, it may be from a different standpoint. Okay? My ears went. Here was his response, and then here is the encouragement that Jermaine also provided for the youth.
Brian has a question for you, Brian Grimes. Mr. Lewis, ask your guest what are his views on the potential, of Tobias Clement crossing the floor.
Personally, I don't think anyone should get into bed with Tobias Clement in regards to politics. I think, personally, I would prefer to see a fresh set of persons vying the next elections. I think all the politicians that we have presently are very tainted in regards to their integrity, their way of thinking, their way of handling things. The world is coming to a place where we need new visions and ideas to take us forward into the next century. Um, Using these old ideologies that that sprung up after communism, the fall of Marxism, and people educated within those areas, they seem to be blindsided when it comes to the next century, when it comes to going into the next generation and financially securing our socio-economic standards. They seem to lack that knack, that drive. One of my university professors called it the rat. They seem to lack that drive, that gnawing force inside of you that breaks down walls and gets you over that next hurdle. I also think that they're very easily swayed by lump sums of money. I think they're very corruptible. So I don't think any of these older politicians should should be given a chance in the next election. I would love to see the young people come out and vote for people that are new and fresh and could take them into the next century with new ideas, new schemes, new plans. Not the same. I also think that they're very easily swayed by washed out things, repackaged and given to you. The way that the country is being run right now, it is not sustainable to take us into the next 100 years. We are going to be ending up in debt to the Chinese, and slowly all our resources and everything will be sold out right from under us, and the grassroots man would have nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, in regards to Tobias Clement, I think Mr. Clement is a dead horse. I think he's a no-no. But that's my personal opinion. He also was taught me back in university, so we do know each other quite a bit.
You know, listen to you over the past 2 minutes. You know, I share most of your sentiment. You know, and you speak of new blood and new leadership, new people putting themselves up to run this country. I want you to speak to our potential statesmen and stateswomen who would want to vie in the next election. I want you to speak to them.
Yes, I would love for you not to be scared. Don't be afraid. Never, never, ever let these older people instill fear into you. The moment that you fear is the moment that you're lost. You need, if there is no new generation to take the place of the older generation, then things would cease to exist. Life is a cycle of continuation where the old pass on things to the new, and the new would come nourish it so they could pass it on to someone else. So now that you see that the older heads are vying for power and trying not to get out and trying to get as much into their private bank accounts as they can, I want the younger generation to not be afraid of them. Step out. Take that bold chance. Risk it. Life is about taking risks. If you never take that risk, you never roll the die, you could never roll a six. You have to take that risk so that you can see the outcome. So I would like to encourage you to not to be scared. Put your lives on the line. Put your education on the line. Put yourself on the line out there, and make it happen. You don't have to start with a big following. You don't have to care what your neighbors would say. You have one short life to live, and if that is your ideology and that is what you feel inside, you have all the right of being a human being to express it. You need to get out there and stop the fear mongering and speak up. Speak up, get education, know what you're saying, make sure you are versed in what you are bringing to the table, get education, get experience in life, gain knowledge, and do the best you can be for your community and yourself, and that would spill over into being good for your nation. I want the younger statesmen out there to don't be afraid of these bigger heads that are already in parliament and on their way out. We need you. We need the younger generation to stand up and take its place. or else everything would be for naught.
As you listen to that, didn't you get the feeling that there is hope? Hey, hope yet? And I hope that those of you youngsters listening out there, and by the way, when I say youngsters, I'm not referring to people like Brian Pitt and John out there in Carriacou. I mean, you guys are old fogies like me, right? And we should be proud of that. But I hope that you were listening to the advice that was given by Jermaine. Take it to heart. Take it to heart. Let's see here. Let's see here now. Some comments. John says, Carriacou Maroon and String Band Festival all this weekend. It's going to be a busy time in Carriacou. Absolutely, John. I imagine there are going to be a lot of people from the mainland heading up to Carriacou. Ryan says, good response to a provocative question regarding Toby's potential crossing of the floor. Yeah, Ryan, I thought so. That's why I pulled that out for you guys. Let's see what else here. Somebody else commented about what's going on in Carriacou this weekend. Let me see. Who was that? Peter, yeah. Peter Bishop said there's a maroon and 6 roads too. And he says also there's Masters cricket going on in Carriacou, so lots of activities there. Yeah, going to be a busy weekend up there. Cassandra Mitchell was watching this piece, and she says, this is a sentiment shared by many young people. Unfortunately, our leaders aren't listening. Ain't that the truth? John says, but they have the vote, therefore can decide where Grenada goes. Hopefully. Ryan says, change is. Youths are our spring season. No one can stop the time, as Bob Marley says. And good old Mags chimes in and says, all well and good to thrash the old and talk about new ideas. But what are these new ideas? I keep hearing about new ideas in the abstract. Idealism don't put food on the table. Very observant, Mags, very observant. And I am hoping that, as these kids, they're still getting their feet wet on this program. And I think a lot of them are just very excited about having an opportunity, a platform to vent. But I think they have to become a little bit more concrete and then start putting action to words. That's what's going to cut it, if you will. Okay, Pilgrims, let me see here. Yeah, that's it. Let me take a little break here, and we're going to come back in just a wee bit.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank. And there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Boyo, they gonna fly with kite now. The wind picking up.
I'm coming. Karim, what you doing?
Fly my kite.
Yeah, but not here. You can't fly kite near power lines, boy.
Why not? The wind good.
Because mommy say kite threads conduct electricity.
Yeah, kite. He's right. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, it can cause power outages, or even worse, it can get shocked.
Come, let's go and fly them in the pasture.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kite threads conduct electricity. Do not fly kites near overhead power lines. This can lead to electric shocks and power outages. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, do not try to retrieve it. Release it and call GRENADAB. Always fly kites in open areas. Keep your kites far away from roads. And remember, always clean up after yourself.
GRENADAB, energizing our Grenada.
All right, folks, tell you what, a little conversation going on here between Ryan and Margaret. Margaret said a little while ago, all well and good to thrash the old and talk about new ideas. But what are these new ideas? I keep hearing about new ideas in the abstract. Idealism doesn't put food on the table. So, Ryan out there in Florida says, Margaret, pragmatism indeed. So Margaret comes back and says, yeah, Ryan, at heart, I'm an idealist. But in reality, I'm a cold, hard pragmatist. Yes, yes. That's Mags for you. And Ryan says, Margaret, we have to live in the real world despite our dreams. Pilgrims, here comes your national report.
Canadian farm owner wraps up recruitment drive in Grenada. Details to this story and more in the national report. With the details to the news for Thursday, April 25th, I am Leslie Ann Johnson. The owner and CEO of Thompson Orchards in Quebec, Canada, has wrapped up a 3-day recruitment drive in Grenada, interviewing young men for job placement on his farm as part of the Canada Caribbean Seasonal Agriculture Program. Mr. Dean Thompson has been increasing the number of Grenadians on his farm for the past 13 years, which he says is due to the excellent relationship with the government of Grenada through the Ministry of Labour.
We've been employing Grenadians now for 12 years, I believe, 13 years. I think this is going to be the 13th year. In the beginning, it was a lot smaller for us. I think the first year we had 8 people that came up. Over time, we started to build up on that. It's really been in the last 5 or 6 years that we've taken on a lot of expansion on our farm. So the numbers we have, example, probably 12 or 13 years ago, we might have had 50 pickers to pick the fruit that we have. This year, I'm thinking we're going to be up close to 150.
Thompson says 2019 marks the 100th anniversary since his great-grandfather bought the orchard after World War I. The Canadian farm owner says with the expansion of the acreage of land at Thompson Orchard means an expansion of farm labor.
Because the numbers are so important, and since we've had such good success with the workers from Grenada, we've been working a lot closer with the government here in Grenada for the last 5 years to ensure that there's a process in place to make sure that the fine men that really do want to work really find their way into the program, and that we have a chance to screen them and make sure that everybody understands what's expected of them, and also to make sure that the people are ready, because not everybody is ready to. It's a big step to go to a new country and live in a new culture and so forth. So we want to make sure that it works really well for the worker. We don't want him to be in a situation where he's not comfortable and has a hard time. So we think that the best way is to start right at the beginning of the process with the government. I've come down a couple times now to try to meet the people, just to make sure everything goes smoothly.
With the immigration change that will now require Grenadians to undergo biometrics at the embassy in Trinidad, Mr. Thompson says discussions will be held to help in the cost that the farm workers will have to bear.
Unfortunately for Grenada, as it is right now, doesn't have that capacity. So yes, they do have to go to Trinidad to get it done, which is where the Canadian embassy is also, and where the passports and visas go and come from. So it adds an extreme expense for the workers down here, the potential workers, because they have to fly to Trinidad. We are, actually, I will be in meetings later on this morning to see how we can try to mitigate that high initial costs for people that are coming to Canada to try to make some money and make a living, but before they even get to Canada, they have a substantial cost of having to fly to Trinidad. So it's put another sort of monkey wrench into the system. We're trying to deal with it. I'm sure we will deal with it. The good thing with everything being every year changing and complications, you almost get accustomed to dealing with it. Okay. So you know that just when you think everything is going smoothly, there's going to be another thing. So you have to learn to deal with it, basically.
Theodore Blaise, the Honorary Consul for Grenada in Quebec, accompanied Mr. Thompson to Grenada. He has assured that from his desk, the interest of Grenadian farm workers will be a priority.
I'm also Commissioner of Oath, similar to Justice of the Peace in Quebec. Okay. I'm certified by the government of Quebec, so I can do a lot of paralegal work, and I would do this on the evenings of duty time for the workers during the weekends, pro bono. Okay. So they do not have to take time off from their jobs to go to see a notary public or a lawyer in the village. That means they will lose money and time. So these are one of the other services that the Office of the Honorary Consul offers for the first time in Quebec. We've been doing this for the last few years now.
So you help them set up accounts?
Yes, well, Mr. Dean Thompson, his company would arrange, once the workers arrive in Quebec, take them to the bank, have accounts, open their accounts for the direct deposits. I liaison with the OECS office, which is of the Caribbean states in Toronto. They handle the insurance part. So if a person is hurt or is unable to work due to certain injuries then I'll assist them with the paperwork, because you know there's documents to fill out with insurance. I would assist with that.
Grenada's representative of the chair of the CARICOM Council for National Security and Law Enforcement, Consley, Senator Winston Garraway, has given this country's commitment and that of CARICOM to stem the illicit trafficking in small arms and light weapons in the region. He was addressing a special meeting at the OAS headquarters in Washington on Thursday to discuss special security concerns of small island and low-lying coastal developing states in the Caribbean at OAS headquarters in Washington. Senator Garraway says the significant increase in the number and use of illegal high-powered weapons in the region should concern all because it can impact the achievement of Sustainable Development Goals. He added that the Inter-American Development Bank's 2017 publication, Restoring Paradise in the Caribbean, should be a wake-up call for all. That publication estimated that the cost of crime in the Caribbean was 3% of GDP and that public spending on citizen security in the Caribbean was between 1.5 to 2.1% of GDP.
The Government of Grenada and the member states of CARICOM reiterates our commitment to the control of the flow of small arms in the region and to assure this august body of the importance that CARICOM member states give to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the great contribution arms control can make to its realization. CARICOM welcomes the United Nations Secretary General's disarmament agenda and affirms that combating the illicit trade in small arms and light weapons is necessary for the achievement of many of the Sustainable Development Goals, including those relating to peace, justice, and strong institutions, poverty reductions, economic growth, health, gender equality, and safe cities and communities.
He says the region will see the establishment of the Interpol Caribbean Regional Liaison Office that will be located in Barbados. Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Dr. The Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, received a courtesy call Wednesday from a delegation from the Kuwait Fund for Arab Economic Development. The team is in Grenada to discuss project financing for the implementation of infrastructural work along the Western Main Road and to view the various locations that will benefit from the project. The Kuwait Fund has already provided a grant of $450,000 to finance preliminary designs and feasibility studies for the rehabilitation of the main road from Guelph to St. George's. The project works to be financed by the Kuwait Fund include the resurfacing and rehabilitation of some of the road network in St. John's, construction of coastal defenses, and improvement of the social infrastructure in Guave. During Wednesday's meeting, Dr. Mitchell thanked the Kuwait Fund for the tremendous support provided to this country over the years. The visiting delegation in turn indicated that Grenada has been one of its most reliable clients over the years, and it looks forward to further cementing this long-standing relationship. This is the National Report. More news after the break.
The eyes of the world are on us more than ever. So let's take it to them. Saturday, May 4th, the Spice Mass Corporation launches Spice Mass 2019. The Caribbean's biggest summer festival. This year's launch starts with a roadshow from Ariza Copper to the National Stadium from 3 p.m. Bring out your last year's costume and join the parade. It's one big experience with a display of fancy mask, traditional mask, Moko Jambi, and the most envied Jab Jab. The official opening is at the National Stadium, featuring your favorite soca artists and DJs, Calypso Monarch, Steel Pan champions, and presentations of the 2019 Carnival Queen contestants, plus displays of 2019 costumes, SMC show tickets, and other attractions to be won. Saturday, May 4th, the National Stadium, the launch of Spice Mass 2019. Bring out the entire family. Log on to spicemassgrenada.com for more.
Continuing the news, Wazim Paisadi of the Grenada Boys Secondary School and Donnell Noel of St. Mark's Secondary are the winners of the 2018 T.A. Mary Show and A.A. La Grenada Awards, respectively. The T.A. Mary Show Award recognized Paisadi as the top CSEC student who excelled in mathematics, English, information technology, history, foreign language, chemistry, biology, and others. Paisadi won from a field of 13 nominees, having obtained 12 CSEC passes with 12 ones. The A.A. La Grenada Award recognized as a student who topped the vocational and technical studies at CSEC. There were 12 nominees for this award, from which Donnell Noel emerged winner. Featured speaker and 2001 A.A. La Grenada awardee Tisa Chase encouraged the students to use the experiences of others before them as life lessons as they strive for greatness.
As you step into tertiary education, I urge you to learn from those in your past. There's a saying by Confucius in the Analects that when I walk with two others, I can use them both as my teachers. I take their good and learn from it. I take their bad and discard it. In other words, emulate the good that you see in anyone and discard the bad, but first examine yourself and see if you share their weaknesses.
Paisadi said he's honored to be the 2018 recipient of the T.A. Mary Show Award and happy that his hard work paid off. He left his fellow nominees with words of advice.
No matter what you may achieve in this life, remember to stay humble and always allow the Lord to guide you. 3. Ability to listen. The ability to heed the words of others is an art in itself, which few can truly say they have mastered. No matter how old one may get, it is still imperative to listen and learn from the advice of others, especially those who have experienced what you are facing.
The Honorable Clarice Modest Kerwin has been appointed acting Prime Minister in the absence of Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell. Dr. Mitchell left the state on Thursday on personal business. The Honorable Modest Kerwin will act in the capacity of Prime Minister until Dr. Mitchell returns to the state on Saturday. The appointment of Minister Modest Kerwin is in keeping with the Grenada Constitution, which makes provision for the Governor General acting on the advice of the Prime Minister to appoint a minister to act in this capacity whenever he is absent from the country. And that's the National Report. I'm Leslie Ann Johnson.
Alrighty, folks, there you have it. That's last night's edition of the National Report. And yes, you folks were busy at it. First of all, Kipling saying good morning. John says, we had the Silk Road Project. Now, we have the Sand Road Project. Observant, John. Peter Bishop says, is that Government Senator Dialli in the picture with the PM? Maybe. They might be discussing the Garden Group project. Just asking. Let's see here. A little while ago, Margaret made a comment which garnered a response from Ryan. And let's see here. There was also a comment from Anthony the Riggs. We were talking about the kids and their ideas, right? This is the first segment we played this morning. The kids were coming up with a lot of ideas. Anthony says, yes, new ideas are good, but take a little time to outline those new ideas. Also, good to talk about putting education on the line, as was mentioned by the young man. But when you are a young GOSPO, how do you put experience on the line? Good question, Anthony, and I hope that these youngsters will think about that. Donna Joseph is saying good morning. She's a little bit late, but she's with us. And Ryan responds to Tony by saying, the young GOSPO have to get ripe with time to be full of juice and to be useful. Peter says, and talking about the jobs on the Canadian farms, Peter says the new employment for Grenada workers is picking fruits in Canada. That's a major improvement on behalf of government. Bravo, bravo. So says Pedro. He goes on to say, though, how many sons and how many sons and daughters of our ministers are lining up to pick fruits in Canada? Huh? Yeah. Then Margaret's keeping an eye on the GIS as always. Margaret says, oh lad, Quebec. Yes, Margaret, yes, Quebec. And remember, was it yesterday or one day this week we heard Garaway referring to Canada as Canada? Huh? Quebec and Canada. So Margaret says here, I know all them French Quebecois having a conniption right now. Max, it's embarrassing, Mark, but that's what our national broadcasting system is feeding to us. They don't know the impact that it has on the citizens of this country, and they don't want to know. I have talked to people at the GIS and been made to feel, who the hell you think you are? Shut up. You know? And that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. Just trying to share 46 years in this industry with these youngsters. Some of them have been in it for 6 months. And they know more than me, Alistair Hughes, Leslie Pear, everybody. Anyway, anybody else here? Colin Silke is joining us from Houston, Texas. Peter Bishop says the PM may be going. Yes, we heard that we now have an acting prime minister. I think it's Clarence Modeste Kerwin, right? Because the PM is off on personal business for a little while. Well, Peter here says the PM may be going to visit his family, who just left on study leave. Pedro, you know something I don't know? Margaret says, just to make it clear, this is not to knock the kids, because they're the future. But they have to understand that in addition to thinking about the what, they also have to think about the how. And that's the point, Mags, I've been trying to get across. Everybody out there has an opinion. How many have solutions? Nada. Pilgrims, Donna Joseph says, George, I always say that those people who are reading the news should look at programs on the BBC to learn how to pronounce words and names of people and countries. Yeah. Donna, you're joking. You're joking. Good advice. You're joking. Pilgrims, let me take a little break here, and we'll come back with Mr. Pitt. Hang in there.
Start the stride to a healthy lifestyle at the 2019 annual Pump It Up Family Fun Walk. There'll be more fun, more smiles, and more prizes for families and friends. Join us in Carrickoo on April 7th at 4 p.m. as we walk from the Harveyvale playing field to the Hillsborough tennis court. And in Grenada on April 28th at 4 p.m. from the Montrouge playing field to the National Cricket Stadium. Packages cost $20 per person for up to 2 individuals and $15 per person for groups of 3 or more. Come out in your numbers to help us raise funds towards re-establishing the Carlton Home.
Welcome home.
My name is Jennifer James, and I've been making confectionaries for the past 7 years. Growing up as a little girl, I always wanted to make these little things. Fudge, sugar cake, tamarind ball, these little things. I read something actually, and it said that tamarind itself is very good because it eliminates fat from the liver. You get the macho tamarind and you crack it, you shell it out. I would add a little baking soda, some spices. I would leave it to rest probably for about 2 hours and then add my sugar and just start kneading. I usually knead it hard enough so that I can roll it. When I finish roll it, I will paste it with the actual white or brown sugar and you have a nice tamarind ball. I have been providing food fair with tamarind ball about 6 years now. I started producing tamarind ball to sell for the school children. I thought I could advance somewhere. So I went to food fair and I asked one of the sales persons there to if they would be interested in selling my tamarind ball. And she told me yes. She told me I'm to bring 20 packets to start with. It was really a joy for me because I wanted to extend on my little business. My name is Jennifer James and I work with the food fair to provide you with tamarind balls.
All right, folks. Brian is saddled up and all set to go, but I just wanted to share a comment again, going back to the youngsters a little while ago who were talking about, the encouragement that we're trying to provide to other youngsters like themselves. And this came from Cassandra Mitchell. Cassandra says, as young leaders, we are torchbearers of the 2030 agenda. Too many times we are left out of the discussions re sustainable development. Older folks deciding what we want without consulting us. We are aware that we do not have all the answers and cognizant that in the end it all adds up to food on the table. We do have some ideas that would be presented in upcoming programs, and a few community projects will be implemented. We continue to urge those with knowledge, experience, and the future of youth at heart to get involved. Okay? Now, having taken care of you folks on Facebook, let me turn to my young footballer here. Take a look. See that? Wearing a football jersey this morning, Good morning, Mr. Pitt.
Good morning, George. Let me apologize for you, George. This is a cricket jersey.
Excuse
This is in support. This is in support of the West Indies team at the World Cup that is coming soon, George.
Yes.
I know your athletic ability is limited.
I didn't ask you to tell the world about that, Brian, for crying out loud. Huh?
Yes, George. We are going to the World Cup and we will win.
You are an optimist. Well, I tell you what, you and Sharon Roberts and Winty, you all better get together.
I'm not as lucky as Sharon. Sharon probably would be there. I can't afford to be there.
Oh, I see.
I will look at it on TV.
Okay. Mr. Pitt, I wish you luck, sir. Best of luck. Now,
George, you're talking on a very interesting subject this morning. That I was going to talk about this sometime down the line, but I'm going to bring it forward. This idea of young people and how they express themselves. Have you ever heard, George, of the GRENADA Social Development Fund?
Yes, sir. Very much so.
That fund, George, the government has taken GRENADA to court, or GRENADA is going to court to try and retain control of that fund. And one of the projects that fund funded was the GRENADA debates. You heard of that, George? To me, this battle in the court is a battle for the minds of our young people. Now, let me just tell you how the GRENADA debate works as I understand it. GRENADA has a team put together, and that team will select topical issues, current affairs issues, and the teams get to debate on these issues. Invariably, they have to do research on both sides of the coin. And I think for those of us who follow that debating process, over the years, there have been many, many topics of controversial topics of social issues. I think the CCJ was very prominent in the last set of debates just before we went to the referendum. So we all understand, George, the importance of this GRENADA debating item. All right, George? Now, I wonder if the government of Grenada were to control this 5% that GRENADA has put aside for their social development fund, who will select the topics? And what kind of topics will the kids have to debate? Now, let's not forget that we have 15 members in parliament from one party. Let's not forget that the government seemed to be skewed or its ideas to get in votes. Let's not forget they're very defensive in a lot of issues as pertain to governance. What kind of topics do you think these kids might be forced to debate? I would like us to pay particular attention, George, to this debate for the minds of our young people.
Yeah.
And it's important that we support GRENADA in this process of retaining possession of this 5% social development fund. And George, I can beg us all to have a say in this process because I believe so far it's developing the minds of our young people. And if you look at the vigor that some of these kids debate these subjects, George, you'll understand what I'm talking about. They have to do the research, they're supported by their teachers, and they learn to debate both sides of the coin. George, if we do nothing else, we should be very cognizant of the fact that government should not be control of this 5% fund.
And they're pretty adamant about it, though.
Who is pretty adamant? Government.
The government.
Yes, because they get to control 5% of GRENADA's. I think it's gross, and they can decide where that money goes. They can decide, okay, if you don't want to debate this particular subject, then zafe you. And that is dangerous, George. Especially as we seem to be moving towards a one-party state.
Seem to be. You know, Brian, in the last little while, GRENADA has been publishing a number of items explaining what a lot of that money has gone towards. They have done a tremendous amount for the Grenadian community. in particular, schools, homes, especially the homes. That's the one that really moves me. And to see that their hands are now being tied by, I think the only way to describe this is a greedy government.
But George, I think when I listen to the debate over this law that was passed, I can't help to feel that the government of Grenada have personalized this issue. I can't help that they have personalized this issue to the point where a minister or more than one minister might be trying to get back at GRENADAB by controlling this fund.
Yeah.
And that is not good for the long-term survival of our children, especially those who participate in that debate. And you know, George, some kids have come alive in this over the years in this process. I think the last debate saw a young man from Carriacou surfacing, who under normal circumstances, because of his physical size, would not have a presence in his school.
Yeah.
However, his participation in this debate cycle gained him a lot of respect.
Yeah.
George, I think we should at some point have that conversation so that GRENADAB know that they have support in this fight and that they take the fight the distance.
Well, you know, I think GRENADAB is acutely aware that they've got the people on their side, because this is only one instance wrongdoing we're seeing on the part of the administration. But GRENADAB knows that the people are on their side. Beverly Sinclair is asking the question here. Brian, do you think the debates would continue if government gets control of that GRENADAB Social Development Fund?
Debates might continue, George, but I worry about the contents. I worry about who will select the topics and whether or not they will avoid certain controversial issues.
Mm-hmm. Kipling is asking, why would the government be interested in youth being educated in debating how they would be able to brainwash them later?
That's a major point, George. And that's the issue. That is the issue that we have to be talking about.
So, boy, it's education, it's sports. What else?
Oh, Lord, George, everything else. Almost everything else. I mean, there's a battle for the minds of our children.
Yeah.
And I think we have to be concerned about that.
John says that 5%, it's just looked on as their spare cash.
You know, George, while we're on this cash business, someone told me the other day, I think it's called the Reconstruction Fund. This is a place that the money from the CBI program goes to. Yeah? So the CBI, the money that comes in from the CBI program goes to some place, and I think it's called the Reconstruction Fund. I am not sure I stand.
Transformation Fund.
Transformation Fund. Thank you, George. And this person was telling me this Transformation Fund is full of money. And I said, pardon me? He said, yes, this Transformation Fund is full of money and we can't find things to do with. We can't find projects that this thing should be funded. I said, well, hold on a minute. There are a lot of social issues in Grenada that the majority of Grenadians cannot benefit from the CBI. There are housing, there's scholarships. So there are a lot of areas that one can put this money to good use. Instead of us having to wait or rely on grant money to give people scholarships, or grant money to build houses, or the Chinese to build a set of houses. Why can't we take on some of those projects that will benefit the majority of people in this country?
Let me answer that question for you, Mr. Pitt. You're obviously not listening. John just answered that for you a minute ago. He says it's just looked on as their spare cash. Why should they spend it to do the stuff you're talking about? Who is Brian Pitt?
Well, let me tell you something. These are some of the issues that I think our children should get involved in, our young people. And they should continue to ask the questions. They should continue to ask the questions of the parliamentary representatives. They must make their voices heard, even though they have to go to social media to do it. They must get answers.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we're in trouble. And while on that, we hear of all these programs and projects under the CBI. How do we recover money from a program that goes bad? Does anybody know? I really don't know how this thing works. Mm-hmm. So if an investor takes money from the fund and the project goes bad for some reason, how do we recover those funds?
Aren't you waiting with bated breath to find out the outcome of the investigation into the shrimp farm?
George, we have to continue to ask the question and continue to push it on. I'm hoping that some of the influential groups in this country will continue to push for those answers, because we need to have those answers in order that we don't make the same mistake over again.
Here's a statement from Donna Joseph. She says, even some of the kids would be handpicked according to their parents' affiliation to this government.
Probably true. Mm-hmm. Probably true.
Benedict Cador says, where is it? These debates would be like the GIS reports.
You guys are so cynical.
We are laughing, George, but this is not funny.
Beverly says, I like Brian's optimism. I'm not hopeful that there would be any debates or other social programs as currently managed by GRENADAB.
You know, there's an old saying, George, my grandmother used to tell me this all the time. What is joke for school children is debt for crapo.
Yeah.
You ever heard that?
Yeah.
What is joke for school children is debt for crapo. We might be laughing now, George, but in the not too distant future, we might all be crying.
Yeah. Brian, I like this one. Kipling says, it is time that we refer to the CBI as it is meant to be in disguise. CBI, come buy it. Plain and simple.
In order for somebody to buy, George, it has to be for sale. And you know what we're forgetting, George? Grenada is 132 square miles. That is not a lot of land there.
Mm.
That is not a lot of land that we have to play with. So we must guard it with our lives.
Yeah. Brian,
George, let me just touch on something quickly before we leave. I've been reading with interest the issues surrounding Tobias Clement. Have you been following that, George?
Yeah, you missed the first part of the program this morning.
I did? Oh my goodness!
Brian, listen. When this program is over, please find a couple of minutes and go listen to the first.
No, George. I wanted to interject my personal experience with two gentlemen who left or were attempting to leave the NNP and its organization.
Repeat that for me.
Two gentlemen who were attempting to leave the NNP and its organization.
Yeah.
One gentleman was a representative for the south of the island, South St. George, and I recall I was doing a series of programs at Cablevision called You Decide. I don't know if you remember that, George.
Yes.
And this gentleman called in a frantic one morning that he wanted to come on the program to talk because he had all kinds of stuff to talk about, the corruption of this government, etc., etc., etc. It was not the day of the broadcast because we were going live. We arranged to do this interview and record it. The time I set was set, I believe, for about 10 o'clock in the morning. I got a call about 9:30 and this guy had pulled out. So I inquired, why? So, well, he said they're looking after me, so I don't have to go on radio again. I said, pardon me? Lo and behold, this guy got a desk in the ministerial complex, an empty desk, and I imagined that he was paid a salary from thenceforth, and that was the end of that interview. The second experience, George, was a guy who is now spending time in jail, Mr. DeBerg. Mr. DeBerg, I was sitting in for Lou Smith in Beyond the Headlines, and Mr. DeBerg wanted to come on that program to talk. Mr. DeBerg initiated the conversation. We arranged to have it done. Lo and behold, the morning of that broadcast, George, I got a call from the station that suggests that this thing is off. I said, what do you mean it's off? Well, they got a call from the Attorney General's office to say that this guy is a loose cannon and they don't know what he might say on the program. So pull the program. George, Tobias Clement can talk about leaving, but I guarantee you that he will have nothing to say about the NNP and its organization. If he leaves, if he becomes a leader of the opposition, which I think would earn him a lot more money than he's making now because he gets to appoint 3 senators, he would leave with the blessing of the hierarchy.
Brian, do yourself a favor. Go listen. Yesterday I had a couple of youngsters in here doing their youth program, and I played an excerpt this morning. Go find a few minutes, please.
I will have a listen.
All right. Before I pull the plug here this morning, Donna Joseph is digressing a little bit here. She says, so how come this transformation fund cannot find projects to fund? What about healthcare and the infrastructure to bring forth a modern, well-equipped hospital? And what about putting down or equipping secondary schools with proper labs and skill centers? And look where the government's selling out all our seacoast. Then they would start from our mountains where our water sources are. Next thing, Grenadians would be boxed in where certain free movements may be restricted. Margaret Francis says, well, as Smokey say, Grenada for sale. Yes, Margaret. Benedict says, even how Tobias phrased the statement left it open for him to benefit. He said, might.
George, the argument could be made for the CBI and the fund that the fund has to be sustainable, but that doesn't say that they cannot dedicate a certain percentage of that fund to do social purpose. It doesn't have to be the whole fund.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Brian. Out of time, my friend. Listen.
Thank you, George. Have a good day. Have a good weekend.
By the way, I know you're very macocious. I know that. And you have your eyes on a lot of things in this country, including oil and gas exploration.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Brian, on Sunday morning, I don't care what you planned for Sunday. Try and find some time. I may even... Right now, I've got so many people on the program on Sunday, I can't say, Brian, come on in.
No.
But I may even ask you to contribute in the way that you're contributing right now electronically. I got Patrick Antoine. I got Claudette Joseph. And I expect that there are going to be some other very, very experienced people involved in the exploration business discussing this recent deal with TNT, okay? And Brian, I would be most appreciative if I could get your comments.
No, George, I think you have some highly qualified people in that discussion, so I would listen. I guarantee you that I would listen.
Okay.
On Sunday morning, because it's a very topical issue.
Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. Have a good weekend.
As always, thanks. Mr. Brian Pitt. Hi. Let's see here. John says sustainability is the get-out excuse. Okay. Bye, Brian. Pilgrims. I think that's just about going to do it. Don't go. Hang on a sec. We still have the inspiration for you.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Conveniently located in the Grand Shopping Center, for over 40 years, Food Fair has provided quality service at affordable prices. Now, grocery shopping is made easier and more convenient from the Food Fair web store.
Hey, babe. Listen, I need you to go down to Food Fair to get some groceries.
All right, no problem. Right away.
Thanks, babe. What are you doing? You're supposed to be going food fair to get a grocery, man.
I am, but didn't you know you can order your groceries online from the Food Fair web store?
Are you serious?
Of course. All you have to do is just to log on to www.foodfair.gd with credit card in hand, and with an order of $100 or more, Food Fair Grenadans will deliver up to 3 miles away. And you don't even have to worry about your information, you know. Their safety measures are excellent.
So hold on. You just order online and Food Fair will deliver to you?
Yep.
Oh, baby, better hurry up and order, man.
I already did. They should be here any minute now.
Enjoy easy online shopping anytime from your home or office from the Food Fair web store. Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
Alrighty, folks, just about time to pull the curtain down. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Some eye-openers for you this morning, eh? A lot of it I bet you already knew, but I'm sure that you heard some stuff here this morning that made you think and will have you thinking for the rest of the day. Parting word this morning comes to you from the book of James. James chapter 1, verses 19 to 22. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. Therefore, get rid of all moral filth and the evil that is so prevalent, and humbly accept the word planted in you, which can save you. Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. James chapter 1, 19 to 22. As he takes another final quick glance here over at Facebook, nada. Pilgrims, Georgie Porgy is going to wish you folks a great weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. And be sure to join me and the gang on Sunday morning for the next edition of Sundays with George Grant.